Welcome to our Savvy series. I'm Catherine Magana here with Rachel Ivanovich. And today we're going to have a discussion on what wealthy women do differently at the start of every year. So I know we've talked about mindset, goals, and here we are. I know the word, and here we are. It's already 3 weeks into the year, and I can't believe how quickly this year's flying by, but that's a whole nother story. But let's kind of talk a little bit about kind of how we think about money. And one of the things that we want to make sure is that your money is in line with your life and kind of how you view money. And so this, it comes to a point where, some people feel like, well, if I'm reviewing, is it performance? Is it based on the numbers? And the reality is, yes, performance is important. And yes, we want your money working for you. And so the question is, most people think, is it, how did my investments do? But the reality is the question that really wealthy women ask is my strategy still right for me with my life and where I'm headed? And so when you look at it from that perspective, yes, it's important to look at the investments and how does it tie in. But once again, we're being a little more intentional with what your plan is and what your life is.
Yeah, and I think some really important questions for you to ask is, am I diversified correctly?
Yeah.
Is my risk aligned with my life stage? Because it does change. Life goes through different seasons. Yeah. Are my accounts actually structured tax efficiently? So just you want to make sure you're taking taxes into account. Am I investing with purpose, not emotion? I think that those are really, really good questions for you to be asking.
Correct. And I think obviously we saw this last week. The markets go up and down. We were just talking before we got on.
That's
and
right.
Basically the Dow Jones was down pretty aggressively on Monday, and then it's come back the last couple of days. So pretty much we're flat for the week, whereas there was a moment where there was a Sell America moment and a lot of people were selling or not our clients or perhaps, but a lot of investors in the markets were moving.
You can't let fear drive you.
So yes, so it's important to look at, what is your plan? Is it in line with your goals? And if you have a plan in place, then you're not going to be wanting to jump in and out of the market. And wealthy women they don't look at, let's go buy this hot stock or investment, or it's
long-term objectives and asset allocation, tax planning, and what are your legacy goals?
So it's really, like I said, having more of an intentional plan and strategy.
It's the roadmap, right?
Yes, which I absolutely love.
I love that too.
And so revisiting your priorities, and so kind of looking at what's most important to you now, perhaps if you have kids or grandkids.
Seasons are changing.
Yeah, or has your career evolved, or perhaps health is a big priority for you. It was interesting. We actually, this morning, we're in a NetForce group with the Carlsbad Chamber of Commerce, and we had an opportunity to hear from one of the speakers, and Dr.
Yvonne Scarlett.
Yvonne Scarlett. She did a presentation, and it was really kind of on the art of living well. And
it was very timely.
Yeah, and I just thought, really taking a step back and reflecting on, is that important to you? And I think health obviously is a big component, because if we want you to live
and if you're not healthy, it's really hard to do other things.
Yes, and we want you to live a long time. And
yes.
So I thought it was, if health is a priority for you, I think being intentional and mindful of that. And one of the things that she talked about, which was kind of interesting to me, was there was a lot of things, but one of them was, she says, how are you enjoying your food? Like, how are you enjoying your breakfast and your lunch and your brunch? Yes. Is like, are you appreciating it, looking at it, tasting it? And I was like, wow, that's like, taking a moment and really like
looking at the colors.
Yeah, and I thought, wow, that was kind of a
instead
good
of sitting at your desk
just eating and looking at your phone or your work. And so obviously we do think, being healthy and living well is important. And so a lot of wealthy women, they reflect on, for the year, usually family and travel and careers and, kind of looking at the impact that they make in the world. And so obviously we want to make sure that, we're here to support you and guide you in that.
And we talk a lot about living life by design.
We do.
And we have the retirement by design that we do. But I think that it's really important to be asking the questions, what am I saving for?
Yeah.
What kind of life do I want my money to support? what do I want to experience? What do I want to give? What do I want to create? And so being really intentional, and I think we were just talking about it before this, but I have my business coach and she, wants me to write out, what are my wins? What are my challenges? What am I focusing on? But I think for you, it's also important, put those personal goals in the calendar first. Put the non-negotiables in your calendar and really design your life and look at and aligning your finances to your life and not the other way around.
Well, it's interesting. We also do a Savvy Woman Invest on Purpose workshop, usually about once a quarter or a couple times a year. We actually have one coming up this evening. And we do some exercises and really kind of thinking about what's the purpose of your money and why, and really starting that stage of helping you think about your future and getting some of those goals in line with where you're at personally and financially. And so I think it's this is a great time, I think, at the beginning of the year, as a lot of us have our words and our goals, but just once again being a little more, spending a little more time in journaling and really focusing on what's important to you.
Yeah, designing your life.
Yes, I love that. And so proactive planning is another kind of thing that's looked at. So planning ahead and not being reactive. So obviously a lot of thought goes into.
So don't wait until your taxes are due. Start planning now.
Yes. And, if there's, and being proactive with your health and if there's businesses or anything, financially or personally, I think if you can get ahead of it, then obviously
start
you can
planning
plan
for retirement before retirement.
Yes, not like the year you want to retire.
Yeah, or if you have a business, think about your business succession plan, and not when maybe a crisis arises, but start looking at it. And we had a couple of attorneys in our group, our networking group, that always talked about that, is make sure you have an exit strategy, but also estate planning. Make sure that you have your estate planning in order before you're in a crisis. And like I said, tax planning. Yes. It's never too early.
So wealthy women treat planning more preventative than just reactive. And so we definitely are in agreement and feel like that's important. And kind of like when you go to a doctor, you don't want to go when you're hurting and pain. You want to be more
And that's what
proactive.
Dr. Scarlett was talking about this morning, is that don't just go to the doctor when you're sick. Same with your financial planning. And, meet with your advisors regularly. Update your documents and, adjust your strategies before those problems actually happen.
Yeah. So wealthy women work on their relationship with money. So obviously it's coming from a place of being abundant,
choices,
having your choices, building confidence in your decision making. And so obviously, and we've talked about in the past, is if you grew up a certain way, maybe you didn't talk about money, but now it's like letting that go and moving forward into
mindset.
Let's move into abundance, future, and really building a trusted team that will help you, make those decisions for you. And so I think obviously the more confident you are in your decisions, then we think that you will, fulfill some of the dreams that you have for your future.
Absolutely.
And so here we are, looking at designing your year. So wealthy women don't chase trends. They don't react to headlines. And headlines are that's challenging.
It's powerful.
Yeah, because the news, or when you hear radio, or if you're online.
And people want to jump in and out of the markets.
Yeah. And we've had, in the last few weeks, we've had a lot of conversations with clients. Sometimes you get nervous, or am I doing the right thing?
Or you hear a neighbor or friend saying, well, I'm doing this, and aren't you doing that? But don't trust your team.
Yeah. And so that's where, once again, your money should support your values, your family experiences, and legacy. We often remind our clients, we have a plan in place for you, and
I think that's powerful.
Yeah, and because I think that, when you do see the headlines, you get scared or nervous. And if you have a plan or a strategy, then I think that you can feel a little more at ease.
And if you haven't reviewed your strategy, maybe it's time to do so, and to clarify your priorities for the year, and, plan proactively, like we've been saying, and then you can build intentionally for your future.
So we're here to help. If you'd like to set up a consultation with us, we're happy to set up a call with you. You can reach us at 760-692-5700. Once again, that's 760-692-5700. And I know we're already, a few weeks into the year, and like you mentioned, it is important to look at your taxes and tax planning. I know there's those tax planner organizations that are coming out right now. So I think, and I was just sharing my documents. Everything's starting to come in. So
everybody's going to be getting W-2s, 1099s. Yeah, they're all coming in right now.
It's like, this is it. So once again, we're big believers of having a plan, looking at your core values, tying in your core values to your investing and your financial plans. And we're here to help.
And are we thinking about having a workshop in February to get people back on their goals?
We are, yes. So we thought it would be a good time just to, once again, reiterate and focus on what were your intentions and goals for the year. So we are putting together.
Because there's a study out there that I think the 16th of January is Quitter's Day, where people just give up on their goals. But
we're not going to let you quit.
That's right. We're not.
So we'll be putting a workshop together in February. I'm really excited about that and get more details out. So once again, if you have any questions, you can reach us at 760-692-5700. And we want to thank you for getting savvy with us today about your finances. And remember to savvy up. Please stay tuned for important disclosures. The opinions expressed in this program are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or any specific security. It is only intended to provide education about the financial industry. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult your financial advisor prior to investing. Any past performance discussed during this program is no guarantee of future results, and the indices referenced for comparison are unmanaged and cannot be invested into directly. As always, please remember investing involves risk and possible loss of principal capital. Please seek advice from a licensed professional. Savvy Woman Wealth Management is a registered investment advisor with the SEC.